The galaxy had long been divided. The Galactic Union, a sprawling alliance of powerful alien species, ruled over countless star systems with an iron fist. Humanity, newcomers to the interstellar stage, were seen as weak, primitive, and insignificant. The Union tolerated them at best, exploited them at worst. But humanity had a secret, one that would change everything. Deep in the outer reaches of human space, hidden in the shadow of a dying star, a ship was being built. It wasn't just any ship. It was a warship, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Its design was sleek and menacing, its weapon systems revolutionary, and its power source, a mysterious technology salvaged from an ancient alien ruin, was beyond anything the Union could comprehend. The project was codenamed Eclipse. Only a handful of people knew of its existence. Among them was Captain Eli, a seasoned veteran with a reputation for getting the impossible done. He had been chosen to command the Eclipse, a decision that filled him with both pride and dread. As Eli stood on the observation deck, staring at the nearly completed warship, his second-in-command, Lieutenant Mara, joined him. "She's a beauty," Mara said, her voice filled with awe. Eli nodded. "She's more than that. She's our last hope. If the Union finds out about her before she's ready." He didn't need to finish the sentence. They both knew what would happen. The Union would crush humanity before they could even dream of fighting back. The Eclipse was humanity's ultimate weapon, a symbol of their defiance and determination. But it was also a ticking time bomb. The ancient technology powering the ship was unstable, and no one fully understood how it worked. As the final preparations were made, Eli and his crew prepared for their first test flight. The stakes were high, but they had no choice. The Union was growing bolder, their demands more oppressive. If humanity didn't act soon, they would lose everything. The day of the test arrived. The crew boarded the Eclipse, their nerves palpable. Eli took his seat on the bridge, his hands steady on the controls. "All systems check," Mara reported. "We're ready to go." Eli took a deep breath. "Engage engines." The ship hummed to life, its power core glowing with an eerie light. The Eclipse lifted off, its sleek hull cutting through the darkness like a blade. For a moment, everything went smoothly. Then, the ship's sensors picked up something unexpected. "Captain," Mara said, her voice tense. "We've got company. A Union patrol ship. They're hailing us." Eli's heart sank. The Union wasn't supposed to know about the Eclipse. Not yet. "Patch them through," he ordered. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the stern face of a Union officer. "Unidentified vessel," the officer said, his voice cold. "You are in violation of Union space. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded." Eli exchanged a quick glance with Mara. They couldn't let the Union board the ship. Not now. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Eli said quietly. Mara nodded, her hands flying over the controls. The Union ship opened fire, its energy beams slamming into the Eclipse's shields. "Shields holding," Mara reported. "But they won't last long." Eli gripped the controls. "Then let's show them what this ship can do." The Eclipse surged forward, its weapon systems coming online. For the first time, humanity's ultimate weapon was about to be unleashed. And the galaxy would never be the same. The Eclipse streaked through the void, its sleek hull glinting under the light of distant stars. The Union patrol ship pursued relentlessly, its weapons firing in precise, calculated bursts. But the Eclipse was no ordinary vessel. Its shields absorbed the impacts with ease, and its engines hummed with a power that left the Union ship struggling to keep up. Captain Eli's hands were steady on the controls, his focus razor-sharp. "Mara, status on weapons?" "Ready to fire," Mara replied, her voice calm but tense. "But Captain, if we engage, there's no going back." The Union will know what we've built. Eli's jaw tightened. They already know. And if we don't fight back now, they'll take everything from us. Fire at will. Mara didn't hesitate. Her fingers danced over the console, and the Eclipse's weapons came alive. A burst of energy erupted from the ship, striking the Union vessel with pinpoint accuracy. The enemy ship's shields flickered and failed, its hull cracking under the onslaught. The Union ship reeled, its engines sputtering. But it wasn't done yet. It launched a swarm of drones, each one armed and deadly. Evasive maneuvers. Eli barked. The Eclipse twisted and turned, its advanced propulsion system allowing it to outmaneuver the drones with ease. Mara targeted them one by one, the ship's weapons cutting through the swarm like a scythe. Within minutes, the drones were destroyed, and the Union ship was crippled. Enemy vessel is retreating, Mara reported, a hint of relief in her voice. Eli let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Good. Let's get out of here before they call for reinforcements. The Eclipse jumped to hyperspace, leaving the damaged Union ship behind. But the victory was bittersweet. The crew knew that this was only the beginning. The Union would not let this insult go unanswered. As the ship traveled through hyperspace, Eli called a meeting in the briefing room. The senior crew gathered around the table, their faces grim. "We've made our move," Eli said, his voice steady. "The Union knows about the Eclipse. They'll come after us with everything they've got. We need to be ready." Mara leaned forward, her expression serious. "We've got the advantage for now. The Eclipse is faster, stronger, and more advanced than anything the Union has. But we're still outnumbered. We can't take on their entire fleet." Eli nodded. "Which is why we need allies. There are other species out there who've been oppressed by the Union. If we can convince them to join us, we might stand a chance." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Forming an alliance with alien species was a risky move, but they had no other choice. "Where do we start?" asked Lieutenant Jax, the ship's communications officer. Eli pulled up a star map on the display. "There's a system on the edge of Union space, a planet called Kalon. The Kalonians have been fighting the Union for years. If anyone's willing to join us, it's them." The crew nodded in agreement. It was a long shot, but it was their best hope. As the Eclipse approached Kalon, the crew prepared for their first diplomatic mission. But they weren't the only ones interested in the planet. "Captain," Mara called out from the bridge. "We've got a problem. A Union fleet is in orbit around Kalon. They're blockading the planet." Eli's eyes narrowed. "What's their strength?" "3 cruisers and a dozen support ships," Mara replied. "They're not taking any chances." Eli clenched his fists. The Union was trying to crush any hope of rebellion before it could begin. But they hadn't counted on the Eclipse. "Prepare for battle," Eli ordered. "We're breaking that blockade." The crew sprang into action, their earlier tension replaced by a fierce determination. The Eclipse was more than just a ship, it was a symbol of hope. And they were ready to fight for it. As the Eclipse dropped out of hyperspace, the Union fleet turned to face them. The battle for Kalon was about to begin. And the galaxy would soon learn the true power of humanity's ultimate weapon. The Eclipse emerged from hyperspace, its sleek hull gleaming under the light of Kalon's sun. The Union fleet, a formidable blockade of 3 cruisers and a dozen support ships, immediately turned their attention to the new arrival. "Captain, they're targeting us," Mara reported, her voice steady but tense. Eli's eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display. "They're trying to intimidate us. Let's show them they've picked the wrong ship to mess with. Mara, target the lead cruiser. Jax, open a channel to the Kalonians. Let them know help is on the way." The crew moved swiftly, their training and determination evident in every action. The Eclipse's weapon systems hummed to life, its advanced targeting systems locking onto the lead Union cruiser. Firing, Mara announced. A burst of energy erupted from the Eclipse, striking the Union cruiser with devastating force. The enemy ship's shields flared and failed, its hull buckling under the impact. The cruiser listed to one side, its engine sputtering. The Union fleet responded with a barrage of energy beams, but the Eclipse's shields held firm. Shields at 85%, Mara reported. They're not going to take us down that easily. Eli allowed himself a small smile. Good. Keep the pressure on. Jax, any response from the Chelonians? Jax shook his head. Nothing yet. But their planetary defenses are coming online. Looks like they're preparing to fight. Eli nodded. Then let's give them an opening. Mara, target the support ships. We need to clear a path. Mara's fingers flew over the console, and the Eclipse's weapons unleashed a barrage of energy bursts. The smaller Union ships were no match for the advanced firepower, and one by one, they were disabled or destroyed. The Union fleet, now realizing the threat the Eclipse posed, began to regroup. The two remaining cruisers moved into formation, their weapons trained on the human ship. Captain, they're launching fighters, Mara warned. Eli's jaw tightened. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. Jax, keep trying to reach the Chelonians. We need them to know we're on their side. The Eclipse twisted and turned, its advanced propulsion system allowing it to outmaneuver the Union fighters. Mara targeted them with precision, the ship's weapons cutting through the swarm with ease. But the Union cruisers were still a threat. Their combined firepower began to wear down the Eclipse's shields. Shields at 60%, Mara reported. We can't keep this up forever. Eli clenched his fists. Then we end this now. Mara, target the cruisers. Full power to weapons. Mara nodded, her hands moving swiftly. The Eclipse's weapons charged, their energy cores glowing with an intense light. Firing, Mara said. Twin beams of energy erupted from the Eclipse, striking the Union cruisers with devastating force. The enemy ships' shields flared and failed, their hulls cracking under the onslaught. The cruisers reeled, their engines sputtering. One by one, they began to retreat, their fighters following suit. The Union blockade was broken. Captain, Jax called out, his voice filled with relief. We've got a response from the Chelonians. They're hailing us. Eli allowed himself a small smile. Patch them through. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the face of a Chelonian commander. Human vessel, the commander said, his voice filled with gratitude. You have our thanks. The Union has oppressed us for too long. If you are willing to fight, we will stand with you. Eli nodded. Then let's get to work. Together, we'll show the Union what happens when they underestimate us. The battle for Kalon was over, but the war for the galaxy had just begun. The Eclipse descended through Kalon's atmosphere, its sleek hull reflecting the planet's orange skies. Below, the Chelonian capital city sprawled across the horizon, its towering spires and fortified walls a testament to the planet's resilience. The Union blockade had been broken, but the fight was far from over. Captain Eli stood on the bridge, his eyes scanning the city below. Jax, any updates from the Chelonians? Jax nodded. Their leaders are waiting to meet us. They've offered to host a council to discuss our alliance. Eli allowed himself a small smile. Good. We'll need their support if we're going to take on the Union. As the Eclipse touched down in the city's central landing zone, a delegation of Chelonians approached. Their leader, a tall, imposing figure with deep blue skin and piercing eyes, stepped forward. Captain Eli, the Chelonian leader said, his voice deep and resonant. I am Commander Valen. On behalf of my people, I thank you for breaking the Union blockade. You have given us hope. Eli extended a hand. We're in this together, Commander. The Union has oppressed both our species for too long. It's time we fight back. Valen clasped Eli's hand firmly. Then let us begin. The council meeting was held in the heart of the Kalonian capital, a grand hall filled with representatives from across the planet. Eli and his senior crew sat at the center of the table, their presence a symbol of humanity's newfound strength. Valen addressed the council. The Union has long sought to crush us, but today, we have seen that they are not invincible. With the help of our human allies, we can strike back and reclaim our freedom. The room erupted in murmurs of agreement, but not everyone was convinced. And what of the eclipse? Asked one of the Kalonian representatives, a skeptical look on his face. Can we trust this ship and its crew? Or will they abandon us when the Union strikes back? Eli stood, his voice calm but firm. The eclipse is more than just a ship. It's a symbol of humanity's defiance. We've risked everything to stand with you, and we're not going anywhere. Together, we can build a fleet capable of taking on the Union. But we need your help. The room fell silent as the representatives considered Eli's words. Finally, Valen spoke. The humans have proven their worth. I say we join them. Who stands with me? One by one, the representatives raised their hands in agreement. The alliance was formed. As the meeting concluded, Eli and his crew returned to the eclipse. The ship's systems hummed softly as they prepared for the next phase of their mission. Captain, Mara said, her voice tinged with concern. The Union won't take this lightly. They'll send a fleet to crush us. Eli nodded. I know. But we've got the Kalonians on our side now. And with their resources, we can build more ships like the Eclipse. We'll be ready. The crew worked tirelessly over the next few days, coordinating with the Kalonians to fortify the planet's defenses and begin construction on new warships. The Eclipse served as the blueprint, its advanced technology shared freely with their new allies. But as the alliance grew stronger, so did the threat of the Union. Captain, Jax called out from the bridge. We've got a problem. Long-range sensors are picking up a Union fleet. They're heading this way. Eli's jaw tightened. How many ships? At least a dozen cruisers and twice as many support vessels, Jax replied. They're not holding back. Eli turned to Mara. Get the Eclipse ready. We're going to need every advantage we've got. The crew sprang into action, their determination unwavering. The Union fleet was coming, and the battle for Kalon was about to begin. But this time, humanity wouldn't be fighting alone. The Union fleet arrived at the edge of Kalon's star system, their ships forming a menacing wall of steel and firepower. The Eclipse and its Kalonian allies stood ready, their defenses bolstered and their resolve unshakable. Captain Eli stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. The Union fleet was massive, but the Eclipse was no longer alone. A dozen Kalonian warships, modeled after the human vessel, flanked it, their sleek hulls gleaming in the starlight. Captain, Mara said, her voice steady. The Kalonian fleet is in position. They're ready to follow your lead. Eli nodded. Good. Let's show the Union what happens when they underestimate us. The Union fleet opened fire, their energy beams slicing through the void. The Eclipse's shields absorbed the impact, but the Kalonian ships weren't as advanced. One of their vessels took a direct hit, its hull cracking under the strain. Shields at 80%, Mara reported. But the Kalonians are taking heavy damage. Eli clenched his fists. We need to draw their fire. Mara, target the lead Union cruiser. Jax, coordinate with the Kalonians. Tell them to focus on the support ships. The crew moved swiftly, their training and determination evident in every action. The Eclipse's weapons came alive, unleashing a barrage of energy bursts that struck the lead Union cruiser with devastating force. The enemy ship's shields flared and failed, its hull buckling under the onslaught. The Calonian fleet, following Eli's orders, targeted the Union support ships. Their weapons, though less advanced than the Eclipse's, were still effective. One by one, the smaller Union vessels were disabled or destroyed. But the Union fleet was relentless. Their cruisers regrouped, their combined firepower beginning to wear down the Eclipse's shields. Shields at 50%, Mara warned. We can't keep this up forever. Eli's jaw tightened. Then we end this now. Mara, prepare the Eclipse protocol. We're going to hit them with everything we've got. Mara hesitated. Captain, the protocol is still unstable. If we use it, we could burn out the ship's systems. Eli met her gaze. We don't have a choice. Do it. Mara nodded, her hands moving swiftly. The Eclipse's power core surged, its energy levels spiking dangerously. Protocol activated, Mara said. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The Eclipse unleashed a massive beam of energy, its intensity blinding. The beam struck the Union fleet with devastating force, tearing through their shields and hulls like paper. The lead cruiser exploded in a fiery burst, its debris scattering into the void. The remaining Union ships, realizing the threat, began to retreat. Union fleet is falling back, Jax reported, his voice filled with relief. Eli allowed himself a small smile. Good. Let's make sure they don't come back. The Eclipse and its Calonian allies pursued the retreating Union fleet, their weapons firing relentlessly. By the time the battle was over, the Union fleet was in disarray, their ships crippled or destroyed. As the crew celebrated their victory, Eli turned to Mara. How's the ship? Mara checked the systems. The Eclipse protocol pushed us to the limit, but we're still operational. We'll need repairs, but we'll live to fight another day. Eli nodded. Then let's get to work. The Union won't stop coming, and neither will we. The battle for Kalon was over, but the war for the galaxy had just begun. The victory at Kalon was a turning point. News of the Union fleet's defeat spread like wildfire across the galaxy, reaching the oppressed species who had long suffered under the Union's rule. The Eclipse became a symbol of hope, a beacon of defiance against tyranny. Captain Eli and his crew worked tirelessly to strengthen their alliance with the Calonians. Together, they began constructing more ships modeled after the Eclipse, each one a testament to humanity's ingenuity and determination. The Calonian shipyards buzzed with activity, their forges glowing day and night as they built the fleet that would challenge the Union's dominance. But the Union wasn't idle. Their defeat at Kalon had shaken them, but it had also made them more dangerous. Captain, Jax called out from the bridge. We've intercepted a Union transmission. They're mobilizing their entire fleet. They're coming for us. Eli's jaw tightened. How long do we have? Days, maybe less, Jax replied. They're not holding back this time. Eli turned to Mara. How's the fleet coming along? Mara checked the reports. We've got 10 new ships ready, with another 5 nearing completion. But we're still outnumbered. The Union fleet is massive. Eli nodded. Then we'll need to be smarter. We can't fight them head-on. We need a plan. The crew gathered in the briefing room, their faces grim but determined. Eli stood at the head of the table, his eyes scanning the room. The Union thinks they can crush us with sheer numbers, he said. But they're wrong. We've got something they don't, ingenuity. We're going to hit them where it hurts. Mara leaned forward. What do you have in mind? Eli pulled up a star map on the display. The Union's fleet is powered by a central command ship. If we can take it out, the rest of their fleet will be in disarray. Jax frowned. That's easier said than done. The command ship will be heavily guarded. Eli allowed himself a small smile. Which is why we're not going to attack it directly. We're going to lure it into a trap. The crew listened intently as Eli outlined his plan. It was risky, but it was their best shot. The next day, the Eclipse and its allied fleet moved into position. They set their trap in a remote star system, its dense asteroid field providing the perfect cover. As the Union fleet arrived, the Eclipse emerged from the shadows, its weapons firing in precise, calculated bursts. The Union ships, caught off guard, scrambled to respond. Union command ship is moving into position, Mara reported. Just like we planned. Eli nodded. Good. Let's reel them in. The Eclipse and its allies retreated into the asteroid field, their ships weaving through the dense debris. The Union fleet pursued, their command ship leading the charge. As the Union ships entered the asteroid field, the trap was sprung. The Eclipse and its allies emerged from hiding, their weapons firing relentlessly. The Union fleet, caught in the narrow confines of the asteroid field, struggled to maneuver. Now! Eli ordered. The Eclipse unleashed the Eclipse Protocol, its energy beam striking the Union command ship with devastating force. The enemy ship's shields flared and failed, its hull cracking under the onslaught. The Union fleet, now leaderless, fell into disarray. The Eclipse and its allies pressed their advantage, their weapons cutting through the enemy ships with ease. By the time the battle was over, the Union fleet was in ruins. The crew of the Eclipse had done the impossible. They had struck a blow against the Union that would be felt across the galaxy. But the war was far from over. The destruction of the Union command ship sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The once invincible Union fleet had been humbled, and the oppressed species who had suffered under their rule began to rise up. The Eclipse became a symbol of hope, its name whispered in defiance across countless star systems. Captain Eli and his crew returned to Kalon as heroes. The Kalonians, emboldened by their victory, pledged their full support to the growing rebellion. Shipyards across the planet worked day and night, constructing more warships modeled after the Eclipse. The alliance grew stronger with each passing day, its ranks swelling with species eager to fight for their freedom. But the Union wasn't defeated. Their grip on the galaxy had been weakened, but they were far from broken. "Captain," Jack said, his voice tense. "We've received reports from our scouts. The Union is regrouping. They're gathering their forces for a counterattack." Eli nodded, his expression grim. "We knew this was coming. We've bought ourselves some time, but the real fight is just beginning." Mara, ever the pragmatist, leaned forward. "We need to strike while we have the advantage. If we can hit them before they're ready, we might be able to end this." Eli agreed. "Then let's not waste any time. Jax, gather the fleet. Mara, prepare the Eclipse. We're taking the fight to them." The rebellion's fleet, now dozens of ships strong, assembled in orbit around Kalon. The Eclipse led the way, its sleek hull gleaming under the light of the planet's sun. The crew stood ready, their determination unwavering. As the fleet jumped to hyperspace, Eli addressed his crew. "This is it. The Union thinks they can crush us, but they're wrong. We've shown them what we're capable of, and we're not done yet. Today, we fight for our freedom. For our future. For the galaxy." The fleet emerged from hyperspace near the Union's stronghold, a massive space station orbiting a dying star. The station was heavily fortified, its defenses bristling with weapons and shields. The Union fleet, caught off guard, scrambled to respond. "All ships, engage," Eli ordered. The battle was fierce. The Union's defenses were formidable, but the rebellion's fleet was relentless. The Eclipse led the charge, its weapons cutting through the enemy ships with precision. As the battle raged, Eli turned to Mara. "We need to take out that station. It's the heart of their operations. Mara nodded. The Eclipse protocol is ready. But it's going to take everything we've got. Eli didn't hesitate. Do it. The Eclipse surged forward, its power core glowing with an intense light. The station's defenses focused their fire on the ship, but its shields held firm. Firing, Mara announced. The Eclipse protocol unleashed a massive beam of energy, striking the station with devastating force. The station's shields flared and failed, its hull cracking under the onslaught. With a final, blinding flash, the station exploded, its debris scattering into the void. The Union fleet, now leaderless, fell into disarray. The Rebellion's fleet pressed their advantage, their weapons cutting through the enemy ships with ease. By the time the battle was over, the Union stronghold was in ruins. The crew of the Eclipse had done the impossible. They had struck a blow against the Union that would be felt across the galaxy. As the fleet returned to Kalon, Eli allowed himself a small smile. The war wasn't over, but they had taken a giant step toward victory. The Eclipse had shaken the universe. And humanity had shown that even the smallest spark of defiance could ignite a revolution.